Retro.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall, voice of Hera and Rook Cast, and you're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. Their behavior is continually unexpected.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And it's Friday. And around here, that means it's time for a look at this week's Star Wars news. But before we dive into that, Jay, I want to remind everybody where we can be found around the internet.
Sure thing, Dennis. We are found on Facebook, Instagram, and X as usual at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is aligned. The signal is boosted to maximum output. The shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So before we get into any real news, this snuck up on me completely. But the day of recording this, which is the day before it's going to come out live on the 4th, is the 10th anniversary of the debut of Rebels. This blows my mind. I did not feel like this show has been around that long. Did you know this was coming, or did this catch you off guard as well?
Well, I saw some little, mentionings of this here and there online. So I kind of knew that something was coming up, but I didn't really pay that close attention that it was the 10th anniversary. So I couldn't remember. I mean, is it considered Rebels Remembered Day? Is that the official title for the anniversary date? Or is it just, is that another date? I'm not really sure. But anyway,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, 10 years of Rebels in our lives. And, we were just talking about this right before we started recording, just how fast all of these anniversaries are coming up on us. And it's just crazy to think about how long some of these things have been in our lives. But wow, that's just, it blows my mind, but it's an amazing thing. So yes, happy anniversary to Rebels.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember when the Clone Wars ended, and that was kind of not on Dave Filoni's terms because Disney had bought Lucasfilm, and then he got to turn around and create this. And I'm just thinking back to some of the, the big moments when it comes to Rebels, and I'm thinking back in 2017 when I went to Celebration in Orlando. I went to the Rebels panel, and he got up there on stage and announced that the 4th season was going to be the final season. And one of the things he was talking about is how, he didn't get to end his last show on his terms. And so he doesn't want to miss the opportunity on this. I can't help but feel they could have easily done another season and a half, because that 4th season was so truncated by comparison to the other 3. And maybe it was just time to move on to other projects. They told the story they needed to tell, but I don't feel like Rebels ever got stale while it was on.
No, I totally agree with you. And I feel like there's so much more storytelling that could definitely have taken place from that. And, obviously we've gotten some of that through other projects and through some other creative endeavors through Star Wars that we've gotten a glimpse into what those stories would have been like. But yeah, it would have been great to keep going with it for sure.
Right. And, the other thing that occurs to me is like when, they went back, hashtag save the Clone Wars, and then Clone Wars saved, as that came out in the next Celebration, and we got a season 7 of the Clone Wars, and then they went to the Bad Batch, and they just continue to evolve the style of animation from the Clone Wars and through the Bad Batch. They haven't gone back and revisited this style from Rebels. Do you make anything of that, or what do you think?
Well, it's interesting because I do think that the fan base would definitely gobble it up. But like you said, Clone Wars was something that was such a surprise that it was ending. And it was the rug that was pulled out from underneath all of us. And so I feel like, and I've told the story a bazillion times that personally I wept when Clone Wars was canceled because it was just, and again, there were so many seasons of it as well that we really made it a part of our collective consciousness. But at least we had time to prepare with Rebels, I guess. And a lot of the fans got an opportunity to sort of make their peace and have a little bit of closure with
Mhm.
the fact that it was ending. So I think that that's the big difference, at least from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, but again, I'm focusing more on the style of animation, not having been
Mhm.
revisited for Rebels here, and and I mean, yeah, I mean, there was an audible gasp in the room when Dave Filoni announced that was going to end, and then no one wanted to, and everyone was begging him to reconsider, but their course was set. The cast was crying on the
Oh,
stage
yeah.
about that. Yeah, and the Clone Wars was a sudden thing, so it was great that that got to come back. But it just kind of strikes me that this was they just and there may be nothing to make of that. This show was this show, and it doesn't have a direct successor like the Bad Batch followed the Clone Wars, and
Mhm.
so it inherited that animation style. Only it's been upgraded over the years as the technology's advanced and the art has evolved and everything else, but they just
Mhm.
haven't gone back to this style on any
Mhm.
project. And
Mhm.
maybe if there were to be a successor series, they would go ahead and do something like that if
Mhm.
they picked up on what Hera and well, not Ezra, but
Right.
Sabine and Zeb and Chopper were doing during the Galactic Civil War. They would continue with that, so that'd be something to see. But
Mhm.
I
For
don't think they're
sure.
going to do that because they're telling Hera and Ezra's and Sabine's story in Ahsoka right now,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming they're going to pick up on that in season 2. And it looks like Zeb's going to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu from that
Right.
trailer footage that got leaked from the last
Right.
celebration. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I apologize. I kind of misunderstood your question with
mhm.
the animation style itself. So,
Mm.
but just kind of springboarding off of what you said. No, I agree, and it's really cool though that each one of these series do have their own style, as you said, that you can pick them out. Even the not so loved Resistance show that is out there, that we reviewed and we were okay with, definitely had its own animation style. And of course, the
Mhm.
Tartakovsky Clone Wars had its own animation style, which I think is very unique for any type of pop culture, that it is so diverse in that way, because usually you can associate a particular style with a particular era or
Mhm.
or type of pop culture. So I think it's really cool that Rebels has its own thing and Clone Wars has its own thing and so on and so forth. As much as Clone Wars has evolved, as we've seen, and as we're
Yeah.
seeing again with our our Clone Wars rewatch, how far it's come.
Yeah. Indeed. All right. Well, yeah, this is cool. This would be a great time to do a Rebels rewatch, but we did that on the show already, and
Mhm.
so now we're in the middle of our Clone Wars rewatch. And if I had known the 10th anniversary was coming up, or had been cognizant of that, then maybe our program would have been a little bit different. Right now, we would have done more with Rebels, but I literally stumbled upon this, and I don't know. I just it surprised me that I wasn't aware of this prior to today when I was putting these notes together. So. Okay, well, the next thing we've got in the news, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the announcement of the documentary coming about John Williams, aptly titled Music by John Williams. And then this week, StarWars.com released a trailer for the documentary. Just as a reminder, this documentary is going to debut at the AFI Fest on October 23rd. It'll be followed by a limited theatrical run, and then it'll appear on Disney Plus on November 1st. But oh my gosh, Jay, this trailer just blew me away for this documentary. Did you get a chance to check it out? And what did you think if you did?
Oh, I did, and just absolutely wow. I mean, it's just from the little tidbits that we're getting from this and the glimpse into John Williams' life is just it's already mind-blowing. Just
Hmm.
to think about, some of the things that were said in this is that, he had spent basically all of this time alone in a room coming up with all of these things. And you really don't consider, I mean, you think about stuff like that, but you don't really consider what an undertaking that is and what type of genius this man actually is. I mean, just from those little snippets. So I am
Hmm.
all in on this and I'm so excited. So excited. I wish I could see it in the theater because theater
Yeah, I was just
music.
going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I know, when we talked about this first time, you talked about your interest in seeing in theater, and it would be cool to see in the theater, but I just don't. I think it's likely only going to be in LA and New York, would be my guess, and just long enough so that it can get Oscar consideration, for all the major awards, because it has to have some sort of a theatrical run in order to be considered by a lot of them. But I'm with you. After I watched it, because throughout the trailer they do a little bit of Jaws, they play Star Wars, Jurassic Park, E.T. and Superman,
Mhm.
the clips of all those things. And it's just like, yeah, that is so distinctly John Williams. His music is very identifiable, but that isn't a bad thing. Most people, some people at least would, say, hey, well, that just means he only writes one style. No, 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 that's not it at all. It's just, it was, when you hear his music, you're at the movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's simply fantastic. But I love some of the quotes from some of we had Steven Spielberg talking about the importance of music and film. And he went on to say that, after he does music for my movie, I start to see my movie in his way.
Yeah.
I thought that was, and then he later
Oh,
on,
yeah.
he goes, and is the purest form of art I've ever experienced from any human being. Talking about
Mhm.
what from a person like John Williams, I don't think you can get higher praise for your art
Oh,
after
for
that.
sure. For sure.
I liked what George Lucas had to say, that Star Wars would not be Star Wars without John Williams music. And we all know he felt that way. I already referenced Star Wars Celebration Orlando in 2017 when we were celebrating the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. And then John Williams and an orchestra were hiding behind the corner, and they get revealed. And George Lucas comes out and says, that he was the secret sauce of
Yes.
Star Wars. So that doesn't surprise me. And
Yeah,
then,
and quick aside real quick, I
mhm,
just remember we were on our way home from a spring break trip, and I was watching at the time when they had the live stream, for Celebration, and I was crying thinking,
mm,
"I wish I was there. What a lovely surprise for everyone." I mean, I was so happy for everyone that was there, but wow, just
yeah,
wow.
I unfortunately was not in that room. I was in one of the other stages watching it there.
Mhm.
And I wish that's a practice they would continue. They just haven't done it for the past few
Right?
celebrations. If
Yeah.
you aren't in the room, then you're left out. But some other people that had some things to say in that trailer. You had J.J. Abrams talking about how John Williams, always finds a way to tap into the essence of what makes it moving or meaningful, and he finds a whole new way of telling the story musically each time. And then Ron Howard, you made the comment here that he is always in a process of discovery. And I loved the final quote that they threw in from John Williams himself, which is, music is enough for a lifetime, but a lifetime is not enough for music.
Mm, that's
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Such
Well,
a beautiful quote.
I'm sure we'll definitely be covering this on the show after it comes out in November. And I cannot wait to get to it.
Oh, same here, same here. And I saw on Instagram when this was first coming out that people were afraid that this was the announcement of John Williams's
Oh, that was
demise.
terrible.
Did
Yeah.
you see that? And some people were like,
No.
"Okay, it's okay, people. He's
Mhm.
fine. He's fine." And I thought, "No, no, no, don't please don't say that." But that's a true testament, and I know I've said this before, of just
Mhm.
the power of someone's passion in their life and how it can truly fuel your soul and give you life. And that's obviously what John Williams has done, and such a legacy. And as he said himself, and you just came through saying as well, and he said music for a musician is like breathing, and so it truly is for him.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's move on to the next and final story that we got for this edition of the news. And that is, we have an excerpt from Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss. This is, of course, the book being written by Stephen Barnes, who previously wrote The Cessus Deception, which is now part of the Legends collection. Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss will be arriving on bookshelves shortly on October 15th. And he was talking a bit about it on StarWars.com, and they included this excerpt for us. And basically, the way I can summarize it is, it looks like, I don't think they ever identified him as Mace Windu in the entire excerpt,
No.
but it's obvious who they're talking about. He gets to this the city of New Zaxxas on the
Mhm.
planet of Metagos. Metagos? I'm going to go with Metagos because I don't know. But he's on this mission because he's received a message from Qui-Gon Jinn after Qui-Gon passed away in the Phantom Menace. And so he's kind of stepping into Qui-Gon's shoes. And once he gets to New Zaxxas, he's, according to this excerpt, or actually the blurb they gave before the excerpt, is that he's trying to pit these criminal organizations against each other and restore peace and justice, I guess, to this area. But as I said, he shows up. They never name him, but he's clearly the stranger that's wandering town. It's very Western in that way.
Yes.
He kind of wanders into town and asks where he can get work, and then he ends up in a cantina. and there's some very Western cantina like things that happen there. So, what do you think
Mhm.
about this excerpt?
Oh, I'm super excited for this. And
Hmm.
this was amazing because I was able to on starwars.com, they had the audio clip as well. So I was reading along, doing like the whole hooked on phonics thing.
Hmm.
But what I really appreciate about this was a couple of things that Stephen Barnes has said is that this is a very quick deep dive. So the story itself or the book itself is going to be, fairly short by comparison of some of these other novels that we've gotten. But just the fact of, we're kind of getting into and as you know, I am so into like the psychology of the characters. And so he said, it's especially fun to mess with Mace's head. And
Hmm.
he worked to expand Mace's character and show more of his inner life on the page. And while Barnes was asking himself, what kind of person would Mace Windu be? And I dig that so much. So I'm so looking forward to it from that perspective. And the fact that they go on starwars.com to say that the style of Barnes also weaves in elements of noir, cyberpunk, and hard-boiled detective novel, which
Hmm.
I just absolutely love that description, which is so great. But I thought that this excerpt was so much fun. You nailed it when you said Old West, with the cantina and everything and all of the different types of creatures and whatnot. But yeah, I'm here for it. What do you think?
No, I liked it as well. I'm excited for this book. I mean, I've been interested since I heard about it. Uh, One of the things I found interesting is like, so yeah, he wanders into this town and he's immediately got these three guys who I guess are posing as the local law enforcement that shake him down and take his blaster. He's carrying a staff. I'm assuming the lightsaber is hidden in the staff uh,
Mhm.
at that point. Yeah, then he wanders in the canteen and he goes up to the bar and he's looking for information. And two of these guys come in and they start giving him trouble. One of them spits in his drink or his food. I can't remember which
Yeah,
one it
that
is.
was gross.
Yeah, but it's all this like Western intimidation type of stuff,
Mhm.
with criminals, and so he's kind of finding out, who's in charge around there, and then how it is you get in there with good graces because he's looking for the work and stuff like that. So, it doesn't sound like a lot from the way I'm describing it, but it really sets a tone and a mood when you read the excerpt there.
Mhm.
I didn't listen to the audio version. Who did the narration?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. It's a voice that I'm not very familiar with, though. I mean, it's
Okay,
it's not Mark Thompson. I can tell you
okay.
that right now. So, and I'm not sure if that was in the. I'm sure that it probably was in the news article. So, I apologize. I don't know that, but I thought it was really well done, honestly.
Hmm.
So I'm so looking forward to it. And I will admit, and this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but I'm not the biggest Mace Windu fan. But I feel like this is going to fix that for me. You know what I mean? Like in terms of getting into his psyche and getting into his head a little bit. And that's why I'm so excited about it. It's not that I don't like Mace. It's just that he's just like not one of my top 10 characters in Star Wars.
Oh, that's fair. That's fine. I'm not saying this is you, but I know a lot of people kind of hold a grudge against him because of the way he treated Ahsoka there at the end. Especially in season 7 when she came
Right.
back and wasn't ready to rejoin the order, and it's like, okay, citizen, that type of thing. And he's got what do you expect? The man's got a job to do. He's running a Jedi Order and is trying to coordinate a war effort. So anyway,
Yep. There you go.
yeah,
And he's
no,
a
but I
cool
think this.
cat, but
Oh yeah, well, anyone that Samuel
he's Sam
Jackson plays
Jackson.
is
Yeah.
going to have to be. So.
And I just saw a thing too. It was funny on Instagram that they had this reel and they were scrolling through how old all of the actors are this year in 2024. And like, for example, Brad Pitt is going to be, I believe, 62. And I
Wow.
believe Samuel L. Jackson is going to be 75 this year. I want to say somewhere in there. So, I was scrolling as I was going through all these, and Mark Hamill's going to be 82, I believe, so it's just
No, he
it's
just turned
or
73.
73, sorry.
Yeah.
So so somebody else is gonna be turning 80 though in
Well,
Star Wars
Harrison
this
Ford
year.
is already
That's who it
in his
was.
80s.
It's
Yeah.
Harrison
So,
Ford. But
yeah.
but at any rate, I was like, "Oh, wow," like, I didn't realize that he was actually up there. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
75, 75.
Yeah.
He'll be turning 76 in December.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay. Well, then, that's it for this week's news. Not a whole lot of it out there, but some fun stuff that we did have there to talk about. And looking forward to seeing everything. So just want to thank you all for joining us for this episode of Podcast Stardust and our discussion of the week's news. If you liked it, then make sure you like, rate, subscribe, wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. And then go check out the show over on richazap.com. You can find our entire catalog of shows, which includes all previous 789, which is our weekly news episodes, our movie breakdown series, our discussion of Rebels, as we were just talking about at the top of the episode. We got everything that we've done is there, and there's a lot of good stuff. And while you're there, you can also check out the other shows on the Richard Podcast Network, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Case Files, Animaniacast, Brews and Blasters, Dork Lair, Doomcast, Enjoy Stuff, Love, Death, and Robots Plus, Superhero Suite, and Warp Trails. Yeah, and Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are and where else we can be found online?
Absolutely. So we can most easily be found on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Podcast Stardust. And we have tons of other places that you can find us as well. So we do have a Pinterest page with tons of boards. So if you're interested in anything Star Wars related, you can hit that up. And as Dennis was running down in our other contacts, we also have our YouTube and YouTube Music channels or outlets that you can listen to all of our episodes, as a matter of fact. And we would love it if you would subscribe to those. Those also support ratings, reviews, and also interaction. So the comments and things on there are something that we really do appreciate. Another place that you can find us is on our Discord room, which is part of the RetroZap Discord server. So we are one of many different rooms, and all of the RetroZap shows that Dennis just talked about are also found over there. And the link to that is in our show notes. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do that by purchasing a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a coffee mug, or something else on TeePublic, where we are teepublic.com/user/podcast stardust. And if that's too hard to remember, just hit the link in our show notes and you can pick from one of 7 different show logo designs that are available on all of those different goods that I just mentioned.
All right. You want to remind everybody what you got going on with cosplay before we wrap this up?
Sure. So most recently, a few weeks ago, I was at the Cleveland Gaming Classic. So I'm still running through lots and lots of pictures from that. And I do have another event coming up on October 13th in New Philadelphia, Ohio, where I will be appearing as Ahsoka once more at Art on the Alley. And then I have some news of my own. I'll get to meet Hayden again in December at GalaxyCon Columbus. So it was just announced that Anakin Skywalker himself, Hayden Christensen, is going to be there. So, of course, I had to jump on that photo op. So I will be there in December. And you can hit everything else up that I do on J.Snips Cosplay.
All right. So on Monday, we are getting into our next episode in our The Clone Wars rewatch. And so check that out. Bombad Jedi. That'll be a fun one. And then on Wednesday, we are doing a discussion of the recently released audiobook on Audible, Padawan's Pride. So make sure you check that out as well. Okay, thanks for listening to episode 790 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend. And until next time, may the Force be with you.